Incredibly important. As I've traveled around the United States and I've met with the smaller groups, I've discovered quickly that what is the most important aspect of all these groups is not the speeches. It's not the intellectual discussions. It's not even going to see Richard Dawkins in some cases. It's literally the social aspect. Right? The social aspect and the community aspect is the most important part of all these events. It's easy to say that and shun it off. And then for atheist groups that I've run into, like in the Northeast and Northwest and the more liberal areas, it's especially easier for them to shun that off, right? They're like, well, because nobody cares if you're an atheist, if you're in Seattle or if you're in New York or Los Angeles. And to a large extent, that's true. But if you're an atheist in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, or if you're an atheist in Huntsville, Alabama, or you're an atheist in Macon, Georgia, people care. And if you can find another atheist to hang out with, even those wishy-washy agnostics, I'm willing to accept one of them, just so that I have a friend, if you can find anybody that agrees with you and hang out with them and enjoy that social aspect, that is a huge thing. And you're not going to be able to embrace that fully until people come out of the closet. The other aspect of this is, let's look at the gay community for a second. Studies have shown that if I'm a homophobe, and I'm a religious homophobe, and I find out that my cousin is a lesbian, I'm less likely to be a religious homophobe now, because I know somebody personally who's gay or lesbian. Dick Cheney's a good example of that. Raging homophobe until he found out his daughter was a lesbian. Now he's not so bad about that and kind of telling the religious right to chill out, right? Great example of that. Well, the same thing would work for atheists. It's hard to be an anti-atheist raging lunatic if your son has come out to you as an atheist, or your daughter has come out to you as an atheist, or your neighbor who you love and adore, you find out that they're an atheist. It's very hard. It makes you less likely to attack and more likely to defend. You may not theologically agree with them, but you're going to defend them against bigotry because you have a personal investment in that individual. Probably the same advice I gave my 12-year-old kids, which was, think for yourself. Don't believe everything you're told. Research, 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 research. Follow the evidence, no matter where it takes you. Don't be afraid of where the evidence takes you. Even if the evidence takes you somewhere that you disagree with or that goes completely contradictory to what you already believe. There have been many times in my life I've had to change my ideals and convictions because the evidence has led me away from what I originally thought. And that's hard to do for a lot of people. It's very hard to do, to self-analyze and self-criticize and look at your own ideals and convictions. Because when I deconverted, when I left the church in the 7th grade, there was quite a while that I went to church on my own, to different churches to try to figure out what I wasn't getting. I'm like, okay, the Presbyterian church that I was raised in clearly doesn't understand my questions and can't give me the answers. So let me go try the Church of God. Let me go try Assembly of God. Let me go try Holiness. And I went to all these churches on my own, and my parents let me. But I didn't find the answer still. And I find, looking back, in hindsight, I clearly know what the problem was. The problem was I was too much of a science enthusiast, even in 6th and 7th grade. But even then, I thought that atheism was a bad thing. I mean, I didn't even know the word atheism. All I knew is I just did not believe in the crap they were dishing out, right? But I thought it was something that was wrong with me. Like, my family's religious, my neighbors are religious, my friends are religious, my extended family's religious, everybody knows religious. So what is wrong with me? Why don't I get it? And that's a sucky position to be in and to think about yourself. And it wasn't until my late teens that I even first heard of the word atheist and then realized, actually, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm the normal, sane one, right? And so I would hope that any child, in that age range, does not go through what I went through, of self-doubt and self-loathing for not getting it, for not being like everybody else. It's okay to be an atheist. You are the normal and rational, insane one. 2007, what you see is this massive spike up in the number of atheist groups across the United States and globally. So you have to ask, well, what happened in 2007? Well, what happened in 2007 was the God delusion. What happened in 2007 was the end of faith. What happened in 2007 was Daniel Dennett's book, right? All these books came out in 2007, and whoosh, because what did those books do? They said it's okay to be an atheist. It's like they gave everybody permission. And so the numbers just drastically increased. And because those books made it to the top 10 of the New York Times and were great sellers, it created discussion. And discussion fed people into wanting to know questions, especially from the theistic side. So they would go into say, okay, I have a question about this particular Bible verse or this particular religion. And before the internet, you went to your preacher, your priest, whose answer was designed to bring you back into the church door, right? Now you go online, these kids go online, they have questions about the Bible, and they go online, and there's a completely categorized and indexed list of contradictions. And if you dig a little deeper, there's a graphical representation of those, those contradictions. You can't get away from it. The internet is where religion goes to die. So you combine the access to the internet with the increased awareness and I don't want to say popularity, but at least recognition of atheists. You combine those aspects together, and it's a continuous upswing. Yeah. We have yet to see a plateau. I love my family, my blood family. I do. But the best family I have is my fellow atheists. I can go to my blood family who, because I'm an atheist, won't talk to me, won't say a thing to me. But I can go to my atheist family and say, listen, I'm in this situation, something bad happened to me, I need help. I know the help's there. 20 to 30 people will show up. They're the most kind, loving, moral people I've ever been around. They're the most fun people I've ever been around. And this idea that we can't be moral or that we run around sappy and sad because our lives are miserable just blows my mind, because it's such a failure to just recognize the data and the statistics that are out there. We have the lowest divorce rate. We have the lowest drug use rate. We have the lowest high school dropout rate. We have the lowest teen pregnancy rate. We have the lowest violent crime rate. We have, there's so many things that atheists are the lowest of. We have the lowest suicide rate. So read the data, you're wrong. Atheism is the way to go. If you want to be happy, you want to live a long, great life and imbibe and have a good time, atheism is the place to go. I'm an individual, but I cannot survive without the collective. And I don't mean the horrible Borg for you nerds out there. I mean the collective movement. Because even as an individual, I cannot make a difference